Hello, everybody. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So it's Thursday night. We're going to be doing an episode of What's New. For those of you who are new to the channel or haven't seen this before, basically, I pick an album that came out during the year that we're currently in. Since this is the beginning of 2024, we're going to start off with an album from the beginning of 2024. So the album I've chosen comes from a band called Dark Cluster, and the album is titled Silver Tomb. It's actually not really a band. It's one of those metal bands where it's one guy doing everything. There's no vocals on this album at all, so it's all instrumental, which is a little bit unusual for me. For those of you who already know me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of instrumental, although I am becoming more accustomed to it and starting to like a little bit more about it. So this album was released January the 1st, 2024. It's about 44 minutes in length, 44 and a half minutes in length, and it's it's an independent label. So the featured musicians or personnel on the album, there's only one guy basically. His name is Hakeem Cloutier, which is I believe he's French. I think he's French, but I could be wrong. Anyways, it's all guitars. He plays all the guitars, including the acoustic stuff. Bass, drums, keyboards, and synthesizers, playing all of these instruments. Nobody else on the album, so he does it all. I found this a lot of heavy guitar riffing and lots of multiple electric guitars. Sometimes I can almost hear like 3 different guitars going at a time. He does like to use a lot of that metal sound in his music. I would call this album black metal, maybe. At times it's got that kind of thrash metal, speed metal type sound to it as well. But overall, I would say it's probably a black metal album. Again, no vocals on the album, so it's all instrumental. He does have some acoustic guitar bits leading in to some of the tracks, and when I do the individual parts about some of the tracks, I will indicate where that is. The drums are pretty strong, actually. At times, I think he's doing quite a bit of drumming, so he's actually a pretty accomplished drummer too. I wouldn't say he's just one of those guys who's doing the regular beat to fill in the album. He seems to have some ability here as well. It's kind of a spacey album too. It's got there's at least 2 or 3 songs on the album that has that kind of spacey, kind of atmospheric opening, almost like very what's the name? Prog. It's like that you get with a lot of prog music. That very atmospheric kind of spacey feel to it. Yeah, he's got quite a bit of that at different points in the album as well. But overall, the album has a really kind of a dark feel to it, I believe. It's not like really heavy black death metal type stuff. It's even though they kind of say that this is a bit of an extreme, I don't really find it that extreme. I find it really almost a medium range kind of metal sound to it. So there's comes out with 7 tracks on here. They range. Most of the stuff is between 6 and 8 minutes in length. There's a couple tunes that are shorter than that. I think one's like 4 minutes. The other one's like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. The opening track's actually the shortest. It's called "A Flourishing Isolation of Madness." Yeah, nice. This one's the beginning of the album. Has that real spacey synthesizer opening kind of thing, and you got some catchy bass and cymbal background that give it that kind of atmosphere. The guitar parts are a little bit more forward, as it is on most of his stuff. I think it's pretty dominated by guitar parts. But it does have some real catchy riffs on this particular tune. The second tune, Degradation. I'm going to screw this up. Degradation. Yeah, I had it right the first time. Degradation, State of Mind. So another acoustic guitar opening here, with a little bit of an electrical riff going along with it. So you get the two of them kind of simultaneously happening. The drums are a little more in the background on this tune. The guitar parts are a little more in the forward. The solo is quite good. It's pretty strong. Typical metal solo too. It has that real metal sound to it. The next track up is called A View Beyond the Spectrum of Light. So so another kind of attempt to be a little bit more, maybe proggy a little bit. I wouldn't say it's proggy, but it does have a spacey feel to it. Heavy guitar riffing on this, lots of crunching along. Beefy. The guitars are like what I would call really beefy sounding, thick, I guess is maybe another word you might use. And they're really catchy as well. The drums are solid on this, and the solo is good. It fits in the song fairly well. Very metal-ish solo as well. The next song is probably my favorite on the album, This is At Peace Through Agonal Respiration. Okay. A bit more subdued, the opening on this. It kind of starts out kind of very subdued with some acoustic and some bass in here. And then it gets melodic and heavier as it goes along. And then it speeds up and almost becomes like a speed metal kind of thrash metal song. It's really quite a heavy riff in some ways. The next song, Rifting the Emptiness of Time. More synthesizer sounds opening this track. Really kind of follows this lengthy, heavy kind of guitar riffing part. Goes on for a fair bit too. He riffs quite a bit on this song. Then he has that little bit of a speed element, then goes back to the riffing, and then a little bit more speed element. So kind of a combination of thrash and black metal here, but done tastefully. It's kind of different to say it's thrash, though, even though it's kind of, I kind of feel like it should be more speed metal, because there's no thrash vocals on this at all. So that's kind of the way I feel about it. Lots of drum fills. Little bits here, little bits there. He's very tasteful with his drums. They're not in the way, kind of predominant and making racket. They're kind of used sparingly and in places that make sense, right? Drifting through the amnesia clouds. I think many of us are doing that, aren't we? This has some more acoustic and synthesizer opening. So he tends to like a little bit of that, where he puts a little bit of this acoustic kind of lead in with some synthesizers to give it that kind of atmosphere. It gives it almost a really spacey feel, to be honest with you. And the keyboards are a little bit more involved on this, a little bit more subdued as well. It's very spacey. This song is probably not as heavy as some of the other songs either. I didn't actually care for this one as much. I found it a little bit weaker than some of the other tracks. And then the final song on the album, A Great Resolution Beyond Reality. This is melodic guitar fade out at the end too, which is really, really quite good. It's got some nice electric guitar pickups here, and just gets heavier as it goes along. Then you have this bass and drums are really, they're not background, they're a little bit more forward, but they're noticeable, as giving it that crunchy feel. Nice catchy riff. It alternates with this metallic kind of guitar sound and the acoustic bit. So that's something that I find that he kind of enjoys doing. I gotta just turn something around here. Anyways, he just kind of sorry, I had something down there and it was getting in my way on my feet. Anyways, so he quite likes to mix that acoustic kind of electric sounds together. So it's a pretty solid album. If you like that black metal or thrash metal, you'll probably like this, even though I think it's a little weak on both of those. I don't think it's a full range of that type of music, but it's still pretty solid. I highly recommend it if you want to listen to something and have a little bit of that space flavor to it as well. This is not a bad album. So overall, pretty solid album. I don't know if it'll be available for purchase at any point. I tend to like CDs, so I won't if it's not available for purchase, I'm probably not going to hear it much more. So I'm hoping that it eventually does. Not all these things happen, but a lot of times they do. And that's what I'm hoping for. It'll come available at some point. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and the subscription. It's much appreciated. Any comments, if you've heard this before, or if you've got any comments or any questions about this, please leave them in the comment section below. You can find this album pretty much on Bandcamp. If you punch in Dark Cluster, Silver Tomb, should have no problem finding it. I had no problem finding it. And so I hope that you have a good evening, and we will see you next week for another episode of What's New. Take care.